In this video, we'll learn how to create borders around text that's been created by yourself in Stitch and Sew. So in this particular example, we have two sections of text. We're going to start with the top part here. Customers requested to learn how to create a border around here, and because she created this in Stitch and Sew, then it gives you some ability to do that somewhat automatically. First thing you want to do is select it, and then go into editing mode, and then open your embroidery settings by right-clicking and choosing embroidery settings. And you'll notice in your embroidery settings at the lower part of the dialog box your border settings themselves. So this isn't checked, and what you can do is check satin outline, which upon hitting apply will create a satin border around this. There are a couple of settings you can play with. Number one is the width of your satin border. This is in tenths of a millimeter, so if you want a fairly wide border, then you want to increase that. So for example, a 4 millimeter border would be 40, for example. And then the second setting that you can adjust is the color. So if we want a contrasting color, let's say a gold, click on the button, just find a gold color here, and then that's good to go. So at 40 tenths of a millimeter, or 4 millimeters, we hit apply. That's almost a 1/4 inch wide, and you can see that that puts a pretty wide border around there. And if we get out of editing mode and then go to realistic view, you can see what that looks like. So it's fairly on the thick side, so this would probably look a little bit better with maybe a little bit thinner border. So we'll go back to editing, and let's set that to a more realistic width. So we'll drop it down to maybe 25, which is 2.5 millimeters. And you can see that looks a little bit better, not quite so overwhelming. So that's how you do it on a single character. And remember, this only works on text that you have created in Stitch and Sew. If you've done it in another software, you've imported a DST file or other design, then you can actually digitize that by going to digitizing, and then basically using the freeform tool and the satin line tool to actually kind of to draw the shape and then automatically fill that in with a satin border. But in this case, since everything was created in Stitch and Sew, then we can even do the bottom text. You can tell that by clicking on one of the letters here. I'm going to get out of digitizing mode. Click on one of the letters and click on editing, and if you see these settings come up and the settings for that letter come up with the available option to do the satin outline, then you can choose that outline and automatically do it because it was created in Stitch and Sew. However, there's another nice option. Instead of doing this one letter at a time, you have this character edit mode, which is this green A icon. If you click on that, then it puts the lettering back into outline mode. Now you'll notice that it's moved off the screen, so apparently when this was created significantly below that number 5, so it just moves to where it was originally done. That's not a big deal, we can always move it back. And then we check satin outline and do what we did before. Now these are smaller letters, so instead of 25, maybe we'll do it at maybe 18 because it's thinner letters. Never go below 15. Try to never go below 10, but 15 is really a preferable minimum. Set your color up here again by clicking on outline color and hitting apply, and now we have our border. So I chose white this time, but whatever color you choose becomes that outline color border. To get out of that, then we can actually pick this up, drag that, and move that right back to where it was. In fact, if you want to align it up, then you can go to Tools, System Parameters, check your display cross, and align the center point of this round dot right here with the center point of the hoop, which is the white dot. And that's where the crosshair really comes in handy, and that keeps you nice and centered. Click off of that, and if we zoom in a little bit here, then you can actually see our text with our border. Now the other thing that you want to keep in mind is the sequence when it does this. That groups them here, so in the object list you can, what it means is that for the 5 it's going to sew the green, then the border, and then for this Sasha here it's going to sew the interior of the S, then the border, then the interior of the A, then its border, etc., etc. So we're getting a lot of color changes here, so there's a couple things that you can do. One trick or one hack in Stitch and Sew that you can do is save this to DST. So I'm going to call this, we'll save this to and call it Sasha2, for example. Just give it a different name. Just put this in my documents here, and I'll call this Sasha2. Save it in CHE for later editing, like the customer was clever enough to do. But then let's also save it in DST. And the DST file, believe it or not, will let us do something we can't do with the CHE. Because these are automatic letters, then the border is linked automatically to each individual letter. But by saving them to DST, it dumbs it down so that that automatic setting is taken away, and they just become raw stitches. So let's open that DST file, and you can see that raw sequence there. So what we can do with the DST file is that we can group everything together very quickly, so that we can get all of everything that we want to sew as a single color, and of course put it all in the correct order. Now and then let's make them all the same color, so it looks like they had that in a green. And then see how all the color changes go away. And then maybe we'll set this into maybe a gold color, whatever the preference is. And then to make this the same green, we can always go to our color selector and just highlight on top of the letter, and notice it kind of detects that. Now they're the same green. And even the same for the 5 here. Let's make that the same gold by clicking on top of the gold. Now we have some uniformity here, and you can see that's basically how you make the satin border. And then also, if you want to sequence them so that all of one color sews together to make it sew a little bit better, then that's another option you have.